Welcome to Just Another Podcast. This is episode 12. We are joined by Josh Moulton, a good friend of mine, owner of Queen City Cinema Club. He's actually joined us before. He was one of the first episodes. He might have been the first episode. Yeah, I think he was the first episode.
Definitely first.
So we brought him back. Josh is going to hopefully join us on a regular basis with Brian. Brian ended up being away this week, so it ended up being just Josh. And then Josh ended up getting a little bit under the weather this weekend, so I was afraid he wasn't going to be able to do it. But we're back, and welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
I was admiring your jersey in the background before we started recording.
Yeah, my beautiful wife bought it for me as our wedding gift, and I am a huge Bears fan. Never really got into autographs per se, although now at the theater I've accumulated quite a collection. But when I opened that and saw that I had something that Walter Payton had touched, I was converted, and I was like, this is like the greatest thing ever. I didn't know I needed it until I had it.
Exactly. It's like one of those weird things that I have some memorabilia in this room that's signed. Some of it I purchased online, but some of it is like no-name people, quote unquote, but like that no one else but a few select people in the world would know. And I'm still like, oh, no, that's signed by that person. They're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Because anything that's signed by someone else is pretty cool. So it's like, no matter if they're famous or not, but then you take someone like Peyton and like someone on a level that's higher than everything else, and it's almost like it's just something he touched in some signature. But it's because he's elevated his life to that point where he's like, I mean, my signature and something I touch is not nearly worth as much as what he is.
I disagree.
But I mean, somebody wanted to steal my artwork off your wall.
Yeah, they did. That was the thing they took. You were in there with Lou Temple, the dude from The Walking Dead. You're in there with Sid Haig is in the theater. You know,
someone stole it thinking, okay, if I steal this, I probably won't get in trouble. But if I steal something else, they might actually call the police on me.
Right. Yeah. But what I found is now collecting all like the Comic-Con stuff and the Peyton jersey. Now I'm kind of getting into it. So there's one of our regular customers brought me a signed Jizza picture.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. And my son gave me a Magic Johnson autograph for whatever the last holiday was. I've lost track of what time of year it was. I told him today, I'm like, your birthday's almost here. His birthday's in March. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't even know what month it is.
It's insane. I mean, the fact that I'm back to work and stuff like that, but it's like we talked at OBC, like everybody's in a good mood, like behind the scenes. Like there can be days where you're stressed because of certain situations going on and customers that have come in and don't really know what to do. And it's just you're stressed a little bit from all the stuff that's going on. But in the same sense, when have we ever in the history of companies, on like regular companies, been able to give an employee 3 months off paid?
Right.
And then so you can sit at home and you can relax and you can clean your house or do some lawn work or go hiking or do whatever. And you're still going to get a paycheck. Some people got paid more. And then come back to work and we'll figure it out then. And it's like all those people who did that are just like gung-ho about coming back to work. And they're like, it's because I got 3 months off paid vacation. And unless you work in the school, you know what I mean? Like unless you're a teacher and then you're, sometimes summers are paid, sometimes depending on your contract in the school. And then like someone like OHOP closes for a month or two in the summer for like because the school's out of session. So they just don't sell anything during the summer. But like for us, it's like giving 3 months off to someone and having them come back and be rejuvenated is pretty badass, which made us lose track of time.
We talked about it a little bit before. Yeah, and just to like understand, kind of, it's easier to like understand what really matters in life. It's I've gotten to spend so much time with my kids, and my wife's back to work now too, but we get to spend a fair amount of time together. It's cool. We get to play board games at 5 p.m, and it was just obviously we're limited in how far we could get out of town or whatever, but it's just, I think hopefully it will have a lasting effect on people understanding that the rat race isn't the be all and end all.
Exactly. I think it's also like, so giving people their own opportunity that even us, Taylor and I talking about like trips, like for our honeymoon and stuff like that. We were going to go to Arizona, but we postponed that because of obvious reasons. Arizona
Right.
is being pretty stupid right now. And then, so we're going to go to Sugarloaf instead. Even Heather let us use their condo. And we talked about, well, maybe we'll go hiking here and do this and do that. And then I'm like, wait, maybe
Right.
we'll just step back. We'll do a few
Yep.
things, but maybe we'll just like relax for a week, because very
Right.
rarely do any of us take time off to just sit home.
Yep.
Most of us take time off to do something, and then we need a vacation from whatever we did.
Exactly. So like me and Tiff went to Rockland this past weekend, and it's really the first time that it was just me and her out of town since the whole thing started. And I mean, I had some trepidation going down there because I knew it was, and seriously, like the restaurant we went out to dinner on Thursday night, there were, 3 or 4 parties in there. The 3 or 4 cars out in front of the restaurant were all out of state.
Yep,
And
that's
you
where
know,
we're at OBC right now too.
yeah. And so it was a little bit nerve wracking, but anyway, my point being, we went down there and we're like, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to do the same exact thing we do at home. You know what I mean? Is play board games, hang out, have a couple drinks, have some dinner. And, but, the important thing is that you're together and, getting out of the house at least.
And speaking of that, like a lot of us enjoyed that. I mean, your bachelor party was that for some of
Yeah.
us. Sam
Yeah.
went a little hard, but
Right.
that was almost an accident too. It wasn't like he did it
Yeah,
on
for
purpose.
sure.
It wasn't like,
Well,
let's go
yeah.
crazy. It was just, it
We
caught up
just,
on him and not eating and all this stuff.
right. Yeah. We just needed lunch sooner.
Yes.
But yeah, no. And I mean, that's kind of my whole deal anyway. It's just like, like relax and let life come at you. And
I mean,
that was
you
great.
missed out. You missed out on Saturday, obviously, but for obvious reasons, not feeling good
Yeah.
and so on. And just it's not a big deal. But it was like that too. It's like, let's just go swim. We played a little
Right.
cornhole. We chatted for a while, but it was like, if anybody asked me, in the future if I have kids and all that, well, how was your bachelor party like? It was swimming, and we did have a
Much fun.
keg.
Yeah.
But I drove home that night, so if
Yeah.
that tells you anything, yeah, that's how it was. And they'll be like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Yeah," because not everybody wants to wake up the next day with a hangover. And
Right. I'm too old for that shit anyway.
we did drink more than probably if we were obviously driving home that night. We were staying
Right.
at a place with your bachelor
Yeah.
party, but like it's low key, and that's how we always want it to be. We just want low
Right.
key. I mean, our wedding is going to hopefully wrap up by 8 or 8:30, and that's
Yeah.
like some people are like, "Why?" I go, that's when Taylor and I turn into pumpkins.
Yep.
And that's end of story. we're old souls, and that's how
Yeah.
we like it. So, but yeah, a lot of people have been able to take this opportunity to rest and relax, and
Right.
even coming back, people are like, we have basically had a wait list every day coming back to that patio, but like it's not like people are rushing to come back to eat out,
Right.
which has been beneficial to us because we've been able to like just like at the end of the day, obviously I'm not going to give you any sales figures, but we look at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, we actually didn't do too bad. But
Yeah.
it feels like we didn't do anything at all because we're
Right.
so used to rushes, or like
Yeah.
on a good night at Queen City Cinema Club, it's like you're running around doing 18 things.
Right.
On a good night when you come back and open and to the public, you're likely going to go, oh, wow, that was easy.
Right.
Because,
Yeah. I mean, some of us were in a hurry to get back to OBC.
yes.
Yeah. Since I was there, like, right when you guys opened.
We went to Woodman's like a week or two after they opened, sitting on the patio.
Yeah.
It wasn't on purpose. We went to get to go, and we're like, "Hey, there's no one on the patio right now. Let's sit down." And we sat down,
Yeah.
and ate dinner there.
Yeah. But to your point, I think also, as far as employees is concerned, it's like I am starting to look forward to bringing the theater back online. We got some work to do. The electrician's in there right now, hooking up some power. But like, you have that time off. You kind of appreciate what you missed while you were gone.
You also opening a new business. You still there? You glitched for a second there.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, you're good.
As did you. There was a glitch in the matrix.
You owning your own business. You stepped into the realm of basically never having time off. Not that you don't take off, but it's like you have and you have boss to help you out, and now you have Tiffany's, obviously part of your family now. So there's that aspect of it. But it's like you either are open, or you can be closed. You could close and say, I'm taking tonight off and just close, but then you don't make any money. And so it's like for me, in a sense, I took Saturday off for our bachelor party, whatever you want to call it. But I got paid because it was a vacation day. But like we were open, OBC made money. There was people there to do the job. And it's like if boss can't work and you can't work, then you just close for the night. And it's like, so for you, you're almost forced to, like, after your first year of opening a business, they're like, the gods were like, hey, take a couple months off.
I mean, I'll be honest, I had it easier than most people that start their own business. You know, we have a pretty unique setup as far as business modeling goes. I think once we come back, it's going to be a lot different, especially with like all the cleaning and everything like that. We're putting in a full kitchen. We're expanding, so we're at almost 4,000 square feet now. So it's you know, I got to really buckle down. I was blessed, I'm not going to lie. But, you know, I also thought about it 24 hours a day for the 2 years before we opened. I thought about it 24 hours a day for the 2 years that we were open before this hit. You know, I still think about it 24 hours a day. And I do a lot of work, you know, outside of just when we're open. And we're open 84 hours a week, you know, on our old schedule. We're going to be cutting that back now, obviously. But
one thing will benefit from, and not to interrupt you, but one thing you'll benefit from, something that I realized that when I was going into opening, like, so we're like, oh, we're opening July 1st. The whole week leading up to that, I was like stressed, like when we opened in October of 18. When we opened OBC, like, how are things going to run quote smoothly? And then because I knew what that looked like once we opened, lines to the door, craziness. I was there till 1 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock every night. And it was just insane, working 70, 80-hour weeks and so on and so forth. So I just got really stressed in my body and my mind and everything because I'm like, that's going to happen again. And it can't happen like that. Like, it's not allowed to happen like that. So like I was able to tell someone, no, you have to wait in the parking lot. So even when you open back up, you'll have a new setup with the food and all this crap. But you'll also be able to control it. So knowing the masses can't come, and you can get things under control and figure out what times it's going to take for food to come out of the kitchen and how to seat people and do all that stuff. So you'll have the ability that you say, I can't get overwhelmed because I'm not allowed to.
And, you know, I think we talked about it a little bit last time. Overwhelmed is not really the status quo there. It's pretty tame, which is great. You know, I like it that way. You can come in nice and relaxing, lots of space. You don't have to worry about a bunch of people elbow to elbow or anything like that. So I think, you know, it'll be interesting to see exactly how it does go. Like, I guess this is probably an innocuous piece of information, but like I got my Google stats for the month. Like, we had 7,000 people look us up last month, and I've done nothing to advertise. We've been closed for 4 months now, and I still had 7,000 people look us up online. So I think people are ready to get back out there a little bit. I'm interested to see what happens once we open. But like you said, I think, you know, it's definitely kind of a blessing in disguise that we can control the flow a little bit more with the regulations and everything.
And you also have the benefit of one of the things we talked about. We were allowed to open June 1st, and we opened July 1st. So anybody who opened June 1st got all the rush of crowd for people wanting to get out then. And they're like, you have this, people have called it like COVID fatigue of like being home and being, you know, antsy to get out and stuff like that. But there's also COVID fatigue for those people who went to places that were open during this situation. And now they're like, okay, I did that then. Let's try the companies that are opening now. So like your benefit will be once you open, it's like, well, I've gone downtown. I've gone to Portland Pie and Nocturnum and Blaze and all these places. Now Josh is open, so let's go to Queen City Cinema Club because he's now opening. I'm fatigued from all these other places. So one of the benefits you will get is maybe these 7,000 people are looking up, going, when is he going to open? You know,
I did, you know, calculate that into my calculations. I was. You know, we closed pretty early. It turned out that pretty much everybody closed pretty much the same day. You know, so it ended up being a matter of hours that we closed early, opposed to everybody else. And then once we were closed and I knew that we were going to be renovating, I was like, you know what, we're going to wait longer than everybody else, make sure that everything is running the right way, which, you know, we still don't really know. You know, I was sitting next to somebody at the beach today that owns another business downtown, and she's like, they're going to shut us down. They're going to shut us down. And, you know, it's it's kind of nerve-wracking in that regard. But I'm biding my time. I have no interest in, ordering all my food like we talked about that day I came up and saw you at
Yeah.
OBC, ordering all that inventory, and then it turns out that we are shut down again. So
So the
I'm
moral of
taking
the
my
story
time, and I'm
is
happy to do it.
everybody out there just wear your freaking mask.
Yes, co-signed.
But it's I'm excited. We're all excited. One of the benefits you'll get from OBC is OBC and Woodman's are closed 2 days a week.
Yep.
So OBC is closed Monday, Tuesday, and Woodman's is closed Sunday, Monday. So on Mondays, for example, we may come up to you when you open and be like, "Hey, Josh, we want to rent the place out.
Yep.
We're going to do a staff night, and we can all
Yep.
go there and do something." So Mondays, Tuesdays, whatever day it is.
Sure thing.
But it's pretty cool because you're going to be able to get that because we were open 7 days a week before. Now
Right.
we're going to be, I mean, there's a possibility we'll go to 6 days at one point, but like
Yep.
it's likely going to stay at 6. I don't think we'll ever go over 6 again for either place, just
Right.
because it's also nice to have that day that our
Sure
staff
is.
can just hang together and be together and be friends and not just have to
Yep.
work all the time together. But
Yeah. And yeah, same thing for us. I'm looking at actually being closed 1 or 2 days a week, especially with such a small staff. Like, it's just being open 7 days, especially given the parameters, what's going on, but available for private bar, stuff like that. But I'm kind of looking forward to like having this reset where we can change our hours, we can change our menu, we can change our pricing, we can change our vibe a little bit, and kind of like all the things I learned from the first 2 years, I can now stop, come back and apply, but it's all applied. And I don't have to actually like change these things on the fly and explain to my customers, they came in on Monday and now on Wednesday I've got a different policy. Now I just get to open and be like, this is what it is now, so
and that's your
always
benefit.
looking for
So
the silver lining.
we're always looking. I mean, all of us are looking forward to going to see Queen City Cinema Club again. And I can't wait. Obviously, take your time, do your thing. But we're
No
all
problem.
excited. We're all excited. I think a lot of people. Every time I mention, because I talk about my wedding or whatever, and Josh is in my wedding, and so we talk about the wedding, and someone's like, "Oh, Josh, from Queen City. Oh, I missed that place." So there is this vibe of people like wanting to get back out and do things.
For sure.
So you're gonna get not a crowd of people, but you're gonna get
Yeah.
some people to come back.
Yep.
And because you are a rental based system too, there is going to be you can't do hey, someone has theater one. It's like you can't
Right.
be like, oh, wait in line. It's
Right.
you wait 2 hours, and when they leave, we'll clean it up, and you'll get to go in there
Yep.
again. So
Yep.
that's pretty cool. We're looking forward to going as well.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
One of the questions, I mean, I don't like doing interview, but one of the questions I always had was, what got you into like wanting movies? Like, what do you look for in a movie? I should say more.
I think probably the most important thing to me is that you come up with something, maybe not that nobody's ever thought of before, but just like, I don't know, like uniqueness. That's just like, I want you to show me something that I couldn't see in the real world. I want you to give me an idea, espouse a philosophy, show me a camera angle. It could be any type of form of just like, something novel and something that brings something into the world that didn't exist before. So, and that can like happen, that's kind of why I like, I tend to move towards science fiction, superhero films, horror, stuff like that, because that's right there on the surface. I also like a lot of the kind of psychological stuff that's coming out, things like, or even if you, take convention and flip it on its head. So I'm a big French New Wave guy. What they did was basically take all the, things that had been ingrained in the movie industry for 100 or 50 years in France, and turn it on its ear and just like go against all of that. And the same thing with like, Jordan Peele is really talented at that, with Get Out and Us. Sorry to Bother You was another one that, come out that me and Tiff watched. We were just like, it's like just completely unique, and it makes you feel something, it makes you think. And I just want something like real that is unreal. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I think I'm on the same page as you as the idea that doesn't mean it has to be an original idea as a whole, but
Right.
like I Taylor and I's one of our favorite movies to watch together is Thor Ragnarok, and it was like I took a superhero movie and
Yep.
kind of turned it around a little bit, made it more of a comedy, and
Yep.
and this, that, and the other thing, and like you had all these superhero movies that came out, and you had like a Deadpool who came out and was like, we're gonna take this to the next level and
Right.
be raunchy, where you're expecting it to be more, bubblegum pop kind of thing
Right.
because the
Yep.
superheroes are supposed to be comic book characters, or a camera angle. Like you said, I honestly think one of my favorite movies for camera angles and cinematography is Dawn of the Dead, the remake
Yeah.
from the early 2000s, or was
Yep.
it early
With
2000s?
Ving Rhames and Mekhi
Yes,
Phifer. Yeah.
like in the keyholes, in like the
Yeah.
different angles that they've done in the film, and it's like I don't think as an overall scope of a movie that movie's the best movie in the world, but something about the cinematography that goes into that movie, that aspect of camera angles or colors or costumes or whatever it may be, they were able to bring that all together in a movie, and that's why I like, for example, Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is the remake, like I said, not what's his name's original one, Romero.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're saying like you want something, and it makes sense. Not, well, why don't you just direct remake a movie, kind of like what Disney's been doing with we're going to remake this movie, but yet we're going to do
Right.
it with real people instead of
Right.
animated,
Yeah. It's live
remake
action,
it
but the
differently.
storyboard
Yes.
is identical. Yeah. Yep. That, so I go for, I watch a lot of older stuff, a lot of Kubrick, a lot of Kurosawa. And then, for the new stuff, I tend to stay away from big budget type of formulaic Hollywood stuff. It just, I know, from a preview or even from just the plot that I'm probably not going to enjoy it. So I really try to search out like those, unique kind of stories. And um, like you were talking about, like the cinematography is a big thing. Like, show me something that can be captured either in camera or in post-production that I wouldn't ever even like be able to dream about. So I'm a big fan of like the visual stuff too.
And I'm looking up something here right now. Sorry, I doesn't look like I'm paying attention, but I am. One thing I've loved having conversations with people about and talking about movies is the like highest grossing movies of all time, like Gone with the
Sure.
Wind. If you just for inflation is the highest grossing movie of all time,
Right.
but it's an original. And then one of those things I want to say is it's an original movie, like
Right.
the original, back in the day. So your highest grossing films of all time, not adjusted for inflation, there's Endgame, so Avengers
Yep.
Endgame. But when I go through these movies, and I was like, which one of these are original ideas or a original production? Maybe it's a book or something else where they made it into a
Right.
movie.
Yep.
Endgame is technically still a sequel, but it's also like the 27th film or whatever in a
Right.
series of films. You have Avatar. So Avatar was an original idea.
Yep.
That
Well, I
made
don't know if it was.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Fern Gully.
2.8 million dollar, $2.8
Yeah.
billion, I should say. Titanic, again, a movie that was the idea behind it was based on a story, but it's like it wasn't a sequel to another movie or a spin-off or anything like that.
Right.
The fourth movie is Star Wars, Force Awakens, and it's Infinity War and Jurassic World and The Lion King, the remake.
Oh, really?
The Avengers, Furious 7, Frozen 2, Ultron, Age of Ultron, Black Panther, which I include in that idea that it's not a sequel, but it's
Right.
like the reason why people went to see it is because there's other movies that came before it.
Right.
Harry Potter number 9 or whatever it is, and Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Fallen Kingdom from Jurassic World, Frozen, again, number 60 on the list is Frozen, again, original-ish idea.
Right. Yeah.
That out of the top movies, there's only 2 or 3 that are original ideas. The rest of them are all they piggybacked off of other movies that have come out that they can say,
Yep.
okay, you saw that movie, you're going to want to come see this movie.
Right.
Which I'm not against, because obviously I'm a huge Marvel fan and a big MCU fan. So to
Right.
me, it's like the reason why people continue to watch those movies, because there was 27 of them so far. Like they're not stopping; it's going further.
Right.
But in the other sense is, I feel like those people who create these movies, including Frozen, for example, you should get a lot more credit for making a movie that many people wanted to go see that was not a remake of another movie or
Right.
a sequel or a play off of another movie. And so,
For
like,
sure.
whenever I see those movies out there, people are like, "Oh, Frozen," but I'm like, they made a kids. They're smart. When you say you're young kids, obviously you have not older kids, they're teenagers, but like,
Yeah.
if your kids were young, like
Right.
5 or 6 years old,
I do have a
you,
6-year-old daughter.
oh yeah, but yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so but
And she
you and
loves Frozen.
yeah, so if you and Tiffany and your 6-year-old are gonna go see that, that's 3 movie tickets.
Right.
If you have a movie for teenagers or older, you know what I mean, and one teenager or 2 teenagers or even yourself, you're like, oh, I'll go see that movie. You might go see it by yourself. So one
Right.
of the reasons why something like a kids movie like Frozen makes so much money though is because it's like families go see it.
Yes. And children love to watch the same things over and over and over and over again. Yep, for sure.
But I'm not opposed to, if you're talking about a personal level, you making a book or a comic book or a poem into a movie, because there is, but making it your own adaptation to that, because I mean, all of us are. The movie was better than the book was better than the movie. That kind of thing is kind of cool conversation.
Sure.
But the original ideas are the ones that always go and make me go, oh, that's an interesting thing to see. And again, that to me was Frozen. When I went to see Frozen for the first time, you know, I didn't go to the theaters to see it. When I saw it at home,
Yeah.
it was interesting to me because it's like, I have no idea what this is about. I have
Right.
no idea where they're going to go with this. I have
Yep.
no idea what the jokes are going to be or the songs are going to be or whatever's going to happen. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But if I've read a book and I watch the movie, I'm like, I at least know what's going to happen at the end.
Right.
And very rarely do they not kill someone who dies in the book or,
Right.
you know, so on. So you know what's going to happen, and depending on how they the adaptation was, but there's always the new movie with the new thing is always going to get my goat more than a remake or
For
a
sure.
adaptation, I should say.
Yep. That's an interesting kind of dichotomy in film history academia, is that balance between commercialism and I don't know, I can't really come up with the right word, just like the novelty of like, or commercialism versus artistic quality. And also when you're talking about the studio system versus an independent filmmaker, when you're talking about what it takes to create a film with all of those people working together, in the division of labor to produce something versus, maybe your auteur kind of theory where the director is kind of leading the charge. So you have producers, you have, film executives, all this other stuff. And it's like a really interesting interplay about how films get made and whether they can even be subversive at all. You know, you got to work pretty hard to make sure your film is actually subversive, because even the ones that aim to be usually end up reinforcing kind of the commercial aspect of the movie industry.
And it is a business. Like, it's the same thing with
Right.
your business. Like, you have to go and do something. You know, when we make a beer, you know, we didn't just make Gratitude to have fun with this beer. The idea is that you give it to a friend, or that one which is a
Yeah.
play off of the Hostess fruit pie.
Right.
And so you don't just do things for your own personal gratification, but there are people who do that. There are independent film people who do that. There's
Sure.
definitely, I mean, we've seen, I don't know if you've watched any like The Toys That Made Us and all
Yep.
that stuff on Netflix.
Yep.
And there's definitely times where people make things to sell things. Has nothing to do with the quality of the film or the actor or the character in the film makes any sense.
Right.
You know, there's times where there's been the film has been, or a TV show has been based off of a comic book, and they add other vehicles or villains or, you know, heroes to be like, oh, we need a female version of this to sell to the girls that are going to buy the toy, and we need, there's boys out there who like motorcycles more than cars, so we got to make a motorcycle version of this, and it's a business. So sometimes some people make some off the wall stuff. I mean, I can think of Kevin Smith as one of them, who makes some things about a guy who wants to be, or turns a guy into a walrus, and the idea that that's something that he just thought about on his podcast and made it, but it wasn't for him to make $1 billion off of it. It was like,
Right.
I want to make movies that I like making. There are people out there who want to watch this shit, but I'm not there to sell a walrus action figure or whatever it may be.
I would buy
I
the
would
Tusk,
buy it. Yes.
Tusk action
Isn't
figure.
it? It's
Yeah,
Justin. What's his name? Justin. Crap. He used to be in the Apple commercials. He was
Justin Long.
Justin Long. He's the
Yeah,
walrus guy in that
yeah,
movie.
yeah. Spoiler alert.
Tusk. Yes, Tusk. If anybody wants to watch a really
Yeah.
fucked up movie, watch Tusk. But
Right.
the idea that, I mean, even Clerks. Think about Clerks for example. That's a movie maker's, like, if you ever watched if ever listened to, anybody wants to listen to the history of how Clerks got made. I mean, he just wanted to make a movie. It had nothing to do with making money.
Right.
It was like, let's make a movie because I can make a movie. And then he turned into Kevin Smith, who Kevin Smith is now, who's one of my favorite people in Hollywood. He's funny. He's ballsy. He takes risks. He does whatever he wants to do.
Interesting little trivia fact for you. Clerks was the first movie where the soundtrack rights cost more than the filmmaking. So it cost more to pay for the rights for the songs than it did to actually shoot the entire film. Yeah.
And the film, I forget, is there a special somewhere I saw on Kevin Smith on the Clerks recently? There was a documentary of some sort or something, a special on it, and it was about how Kevin Smith actually was working days in that Quick Stop.
Yeah.
And then he convinced the owner. He convinced the owner to close at night, and he shot those films at night, and that's why the sign was put out front, was so that you wouldn't know it was nighttime when they were filming. It was supposed to be daytime, so they had that we are open thing. It's because they were only able to film like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and he was able to shoot it that way. And it's like he sold his comic book collection to buy his camera equipment and all that crap. And it's like, those are the cool things about films, in my opinion.
Right.
But then there's also the thing that, like, people took risks on bigger scales, like Disney or Marvel took risks on Iron Man. Like they a character that no one really cared about.
Yeah, that was a huge risk at the time. Yes. It's easy to forget. Exactly. Nobody cared about comic book movies at all at that point. And definitely nobody, well, I like that. I was a big Iron Man fan, so I was excited for it. But it was a pretty small segment of the population. And now look at where we're at. I mean, as far as like maybe even stores in the Bangor Mall before, the last couple of months, there was like 5 stores left and all they were selling was like Funko Pops and comic book gear, And
I mean, look behind me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Honestly, you have to admit. But you have to admit that, like, in a sense, if you talk about movies, do you think Funko would be where they are if it wasn't for Marvel? No. Like those movies that originally came out with Iron Man and all these other movies that came out? Probably not, because they spun off a whole thing that pop culture and comic books and these superheroes and villains are not. You're not an outcast because of this. Right. And they made it more pop culture, more in the know, and so that this character and this company is now where it is because of, I mean, it's the Beanie Baby of the 2010 to 2020. It's where it is. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because they're cute and they're badass. Like they're like, to the point where it's like it doesn't really look like the character, but they were able to make a square head with big eyes look like a character. I mean, that doesn't look like Stan Lee at all, but it does. You know what I mean? Like, from a distance, any of us who know Stan Lee, you're going, oh, that's Stan Lee. But Stan Lee didn't have a head the size of a balloon. It's not. Yeah. Or Deadpool here.
Right.
But
I got a bunch of them myself. I was never. You asked me 15 years ago. You go, how many bobbleheads do you think you'll have when you're 42? I definitely wouldn't say 100.
No.
I would have 0 bobbleheads, and now look at me.
It's funny too, because I mean, our friend Will and Jay, who run the Bangor Comic and Toy Con. Will is the kind of guy who keeps them in the box and has them in protectors and all that stuff. And I do have one that's still in the box, and that's the Baby Yoda one. Yep. That it's in a spot where it doesn't need to be out of the box. So I'm like, why take it out of the box? But the rest of them, to me, I mean, I have some in a display case even, and they're just in a display case because I don't want people to touch them, because then they fall over and they'll break or whatever. Yeah. But I don't care how much they're worth. I bought them for the $5 or $6 at the time, or $10 or $15 because they were cheap to buy. I mean, to buy something like I don't know if you can see Black Panther back there.
Yeah.
But to buy Black Panther, that's like a $20 or $30 item or
Right.
more.
Yeah.
But to buy a Funko Pop, it's $8 or $9. If I want to decorate my room with comic book characters, a
Right.
Funko Pop's the way to go because
Yeah.
they're cheap.
Yeah.
But again, to go back on the movie idea, that I feel like the movie industry funds other industries like the action figure industry and
Right.
the statue industry and all that stuff. So it's like, you know, yes, original ideas are fun, and you like that, and I like that, and that. But in the same sense, if you want to be a movie maker and you want to make millions of dollars, find something that needs to be remade, or
Right.
find something that has something you can sell along with it.
For sure. I mean, back in the 80s, it did work kind of the other way, where they would come out with toys and then make a movie to sell the toy. You know, G.I. Joe, Transformers, et cetera,
yeah.
et cetera. So, you know, it's a very symbiotic relationship there.
And there's a couple of them out there, and actually the only one I can think of, if you want to relate comic books, that are independent comic book companies that made independent film. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the independent comic book company that made independent film in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is like, it cost a couple $1 million to make the movie or whatever it was, but it was like made way more than anybody expected to. Is one, I honestly think, is one of the best comic book adaptations like out there. Like, obviously not direct adaptation, but like the idea that it's based on a comic book. Like, I will always watch those movies. Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they need to remake it. And we actually, I don't know if you watched Will and Jay's with podcast or like stream with Kevin Eastman and Ben Bishop and what's his face, Troy Little.
Yep.
But the idea that Kevin was like, he wants them to make a Daredevil, Punisher-esque Netflix movie or series with Ninja Turtles, dark, gritty, like the first. I mean, if you read, you know, TMNT 1, it's not like
no.
Kabow, Cowabunga.
Cowabunga.
It's very
Pizza,
dark.
Dude. Yeah. For
and
sure.
So if they could make a dark, gritty version of it, but use the freaking suits, no one gives a shit about the CGI turtles.
Yep.
We want.
Agreed.
Oh, they can't do backflips. They're not supposed to. They're turtles. Like, just let them be.
Yep. Right. Yeah, we watched The Dark Knight the other night. It just happened to come on, you know, streaming or whatever, and I was reminded of how much of that was practical effects that Chris Nolan did. You know, like they flipped that truck in the middle of the street. You know, they built all those vehicles and had a stuntman trying to drive these vehicles that don't make any sense. You know, like the motorcycle with the 4 foot wide tires. You know, but how much better did that film look than? And you know, I love Marvel. Some of the stuff that I've seen recently is CGI. Really, you know, it's probably the best CGI. You know, but it still bothers me a little bit. Always practical effects, like I guess to go back to our original question, if you can make me see things that I never thought I could see and it's real, like, you know, take my money.
Well, what are movies made for? Movies are made to entertain you, but they're also made you to put you like the idea that when I watched Paranormal Activity #1, up until that stupid last scene, in my opinion, you sat and I could leave the theater and go, wait, was that real?
Right.
Is that really film? Is that a real, like at the end of this, was I going to see a thing? This is not fake. This is not film.
Right.
This is an actual real movie or actual real film. I would have believed that because of how well that movie was made, to the point where, again, at the end where it jumped at the camera, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Paranormal Activity by now, I think I can say spoiler, no spoiler alert needed. But the idea that the whole thing seemed freaking real. Same thing with like a Blair Witch Project or something like that. It seems real. Movies are supposed to make us feel lost in this fake, quote unquote, place. And if you make it look fake, then I'm going to lose my mind being entrenched in this space. If you make it look real, you know, then I'm going to do that. And so there's some special effects that look better when you do them in real life. You do a Ninja Turtle suit. An actual turtle suit looks more like a turtle than a CGI turtle does. Am I going to believe that a turtle could do a bunch of backflips with a shell on the back of him? Probably not. If you did it in CGI, you wouldn't you'd be able to do that. In real life, you wouldn't be able to do that. So there's like this borderline, like you're supposed to make the people at home feel like this is real, but also do the best. And obviously, again, back to the idea that this is a money-making industry. This is not a
Right.
nonprofit. I mean, a nonprofit industry would probably do something like that.
Yeah.
But in our industry, we're like, okay, no, you can't spend $1 million extra on suits for these actors. We need to spend, 20 extra hours in this special effects booth to do this. Then we're going to do that because it's going to cost us way less money.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect of it. But if you look back on it, some of the best movies I'll ever think about are your Back to the Futures and your Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Ghostbusters. And I'll always say those are some of my favorite movies because they look cheesy, but it's like they at least tried without special effects. Like, or some, they only did some special effects.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I guess another point that I would make as far as to your original question is feelings. Mm-hmm. So I want to have something. I don't care. Like I watch some pretty rough stuff, like some pretty weird stuff, but because it makes me like emotionally react, So I'm a big John Waters fan, and his whole shtick is to kind of repulse you. There's no special effects in that. He's just doing screwed up stuff to like really kind of make your brain question he's doing things that are like in camera and you're still asking if it's real because you're like, this is disgusting,
someone
so
really
like,
just die on the screen.
Right. So I'm also kind of I would rather watch something that has a $500,000 budget, but makes me go, whoa, what did I just watch? Than something that cost $40 million. And I'm like, yeah, that was just, 600 hours of dudes sitting behind computers,
And that's the benefit we get. There are some amazing things out there but again, go back, Jurassic Park.
Right.
Jurassic Park 1. Those dinosaurs looked real.
Right.
And part of it's because they were actually a mixture between CGI computer stuff, but also suits and the heads of. I was scared. I was freaking stupid as a kid.
Yeah.
That a dinosaur was actually going to be remade and come and get me as a kid. That was one of the few movies as a child that I was actually frightened by.
And I would say a good test of that is, does it hold up now? And if you go back and watch it, it really does hold up. Like you're not looking at it like, oh my God, this is the worst special effects ever. Like it's still
Power Rangers shows.
Right.
The old school, as the Power Rangers went from like where it was to like at the end, it was like you'd see like stuffing coming out of the side of the costume. No, on Jurassic Park, it doesn't. It does hold up.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, do you watch mostly movies, or are you guys like watching TV shows lately, or what are you guys watching?
We've been watching, I don't know, kind of a mix. We have very different schedules too, so that makes it tough. Because I'm always like, all right, things that we really want to see. Like we picked up Ad Astra on Blu-ray the other day. 3 weeks ago. Still haven't watched it because she gets up early, I go to bed late. But I would say kind of a mix. The one that we're really into right now is The Great. So Hulu original about Catherine the Great and the Russian Empire, mid 19th century. And it's hilarious and it's weird and it's just like, a little raunchy. It's got everything you want,
It's funny how you say that because like it's a show I haven't heard yet. You speaking these words are the first time I've heard of this. And I own subscriptions to Hulu and Netflix and all those things. And there's a mixture between stuff like Taylor and I think are going to do for our Married Into This podcast. We're going to rewatch all of The Office and we're going to do an episode on each season. So instead of, we originally talked about doing our 5 best episodes or whatever, but I think we're going to watch the whole season, pick our couple episodes we loved that season, and then go to the next season and do this, same thing over again. But that's mainly because I'm listening to the podcast, An Oral History of The Office with Brian Baumgartner. And she listens to The Office ladies. And so we were really into that. But like, listening to them talk about how hard it was to get The Office made, which if you think back on it now is such an iconic and historical show for TV. And then you think of a thing like The Great, which like, I wonder how hard it was for them to get that show approved and made.
Well, I mean, I'd really be interested to learn more about how these streaming services are producing these things, because I mean, you go to Netflix or Hulu now, every show that pops up on the screen is an original, and they're just churning them out, man. But a lot of it is pretty high quality, like they're good shows, There's some things I've seen that I wasn't like super into, but maybe that's just personal taste. But like, how I don't know how they're managing this, but it's pretty crazy. So I don't think maybe it's hard for me to write a treatment and get put on one of these once you're in and the show is being made. I feel like they've got some type of system going on that they've figured it out and how to mass produce this stuff.
And I bet if you're in it, if you've ever hit a home run, like at this point, Jon Favreau can probably do whatever the hell he wants for any company everywhere, ever in history. I mean, my theory is, what's her name? Catherine Kennedy is supposedly leaving Star Wars, and she's been there basically since the beginning. That's who I would tab to replace her.
Oh yeah,
it's him or Kevin Feige at Marvel, because they're all under the same umbrella and all that stuff. But my thought was like that some of the person, you might not see it ahead of time, but there may be someone on that show you watch that's kind of off the wall or whatever on Hulu. That might be, that person's also been on, Lost and, Game of Thrones, and all these shows that are super freaking successful. And you go, that might be why they were just like, green light it. Don't worry about it. We're going to make some money off of it or whatever. But in the other sense of it is on streaming services, I've had Netflix. I can't even remember when I didn't have Netflix, if that makes sense. I was a Netflix DVD subscriber. So I've had Netflix for years. So they've made, from $7.99 a month to whatever it is now, $15.99 a month, whatever it is, a month on me. They didn't have to make me go see a movie in the theaters.
Right.
They got that money from me every month for years, and then you have it, and so else has it. And so to me, it's like they could just make whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Because as long as someone is continuing to subscribe to it, they're gonna get that money in the back door. That they don't have to convince you to go to the theater to see it.
Right. And you kind of see what the other side of that looks like with the DC streaming service, where they shot the first, 6 or 8 episodes of Swamp Thing, canceled it before they'd even released the second episode because they didn't have enough subscribers to say, okay, we're going to do a second season. You know what I mean? So like you can kind of see how it works both ways.
And companies like Hulu, who's obviously backed by Disney now too, because they own a majority share or whatever of that, and then Disney Plus is backed by $1 billion company like Disney, and Amazon Prime, who doesn't need to 100% make money on their streaming services. As long as people are buying things on Amazon.com, they're gonna be able to afford it. And your Netflix, which is like the name, like if someone, it's almost, I feel like in the future it's gonna be like, oh, are you Netflixing that? Like that's the terminology, like Kleenex or Googling or whatever. That Netflix started all that. And one of the stats that I found out on that podcast, the Office podcast I listened to, is Office in 2019 was streamed 52 billion minutes.
What?
52 billion minutes of The Office was streamed in 2019.
I mean, I do know people that will literally like binge the entire show and then like not even watch anything else and just go back to the beginning and binge it again.
It's insane. I can't imagine like shows like Breaking Bad, which was on AMC but didn't really take off until it got put on Netflix. In the future ensuing seasons, it was one of the like critically acclaimed shows on TV and so on. So it's like I understand how some of these shows get made, but there's some that I'm like, there's so many out there. And we're watching Dexter right now, which did that end in like 2013 or 14 or whatever it was?
I just finished Breaking Bad maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Well, probably longer than that. 6 months ago. I just finished Sons of Anarchy a couple months ago.
So people are creating new content, right? They're creating new content, but yet I'm, as a person who pays monthly for that service, is still watching old shit. I'm watching Dexter from years ago, and I'm paying for Netflix. So Tiffany, I am not one of those ones watching the new service, new originals or whatever.
I'm not really either. Tiff was watching Nip Tuck for a while. I've been on a Shark Tank kick. Like
Dude,
I'm watching like Shark Tank, like just like nonstop.
if I had the money,
But
I'd invest in that if I had the money.
yeah, yeah.
But
I find it really interesting. But
it's
so
weird. So like,
you're not really watching anything new right now.
no, I mean, I feel like we watched a new thing if they come out, but then a lot of the things nowadays, like The Office, I was listening to this podcast and they got picked up for 6 episodes. They were on NBC, so that's unheard of because NBC is 22 episode seasons and so on. So their
Right.
first season was 6 episodes, but that's common 6 to 12 to 13
Yeah.
on Netflix. You don't
Yeah.
have 22 episode seasons on Netflix. So for me, it's like we watched Space Force. That was like 8 or 9 episodes or 10 episodes, whatever it was. So like
Yeah.
we're over. It's done. Move on. It's the next
Yeah.
thing. So we do watch it, but we were able to watch if we watch 2 episodes a night at half-an-hour episodes. It's 5 days and you're done with that 10
Right.
episode season.
Yeah. Same
But
with
that's
Mandalorian. I think the Great, which I
well,
mentioned, where it was pretty short.
but the Mandalorian, they were able to do it because they did it every Friday. So it's like we were
Right.
forced to watch it on Friday, which is,
Right.
I mean, that's what Disney's been doing is they'll release every Friday, and so that forces us to wait a week. But like for us, it's right now I'm back to work, so obviously for 3 months I was not back to work, but
Right.
at night. But now it's Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday night. We're home all night. Like tonight, we're probably gonna watch something on this, but it's likely gonna be Dexter tonight because we're still watching that. But yeah, so we're not watching anything new. I don't know the last time I ever watched something on NBC, CBS,
Oh yeah.
Fox, or any of those. I mean,
I have Hulu
I
Live, and I still
I
don't watch those things
I have
because
YouTube Live, and I don't.
why would I watch something with commercials?
And so I was even watching. I'm a big Walking Dead fan, so I was even watching the latest Walking Dead episodes. But I would watch it like I have Mondays off now, and then I don't go to work until noon on Wednesday. Or sorry, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'll like watch a couple episodes in the morning, or whatever. So I'll watch it afterwards. Like if it was aired on Sunday night, I'm probably watching it on Monday or Tuesday or
Right.
Wednesday. Um, but I don't know. Like I watched some sports live. Like I watch basketball live
Yeah.
on YouTube TV. And
Yeah.
if like I end up doing an interview for OBC on the news, I'll watch that live or something. But there's
Right.
like it's very rare. And you're talking about watching something new. I'm reading The Walking Dead over again. So like
Yep.
I'm on like comic 52 out of
Yep.
193. And so what I started doing on Netflix, watching the show again. Like I wonder how it matches up again. And so it's kind of funny how it's like I'm watching the Walking Dead. Nothing new on Netflix,
Right.
Hulu, any of these things. Not
Yep.
watching anything new. It's gonna have to do. I don't know. Thinking back on it, I watched The Office from episode 1 basically. I think I watched The Office episode maybe 2 or 3
Sure.
on TV weekly
Yep.
every year up until the last episode in season 9. The Walking Dead I probably started at season 3. So
Yeah.
the first 2 episodes or seasons I had to watch online.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad I watched all online. Didn't watch any of that
Yeah.
original new.
Well, let me ask you this now. What do you think about what are you giving up? So like I obviously, I was born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, coming of age in the 90s. So almost everything I ever watched for my life was I had to tune in at a certain time on a certain day. And what was important to me, looking back on it, which I hadn't known previously until basically I had, I rewatched Lost, right? But when I rewatched it, it was a binge. When I watched it the original time, I had to wait every week and think about that mystery for the entire week, And now there's none of that. Like now, I don't even have commercial breaks to break up the drama, So I wonder, what that does to our brains as far as, we're kind of missing out on that.
I think so too.
Suspense.
I've mentioned it many times where I'm like watching Dexter, for an example, and it ends, and I'm like, can you imagine if we were watching this live on TV? We had to wait till next week to find out what the
Right.
hell happens. Like,
Yep.
no, we're like,
Yep.
yeah, we can watch one
Or
more
if you
before
were
we go to bed.
watching Game of Thrones and you had to wait an entire season because you were watching it live, versus I got to, read all the books and I pretty much just binged the entire thing until the last season. I watched, maybe the last 2 seasons live. But
And
can you
so
imagine like Red Wedding happens and then you have to wait an entire off season,
I think that so minus the new Disney Plus shows with Mandalorian and some of the other like offbeat kind of shows I watched with like the what's his face from Jurassic Park,
Goldblum.
Goldblum, his show.
Yeah.
Um, but minus those shows that are new on streaming services that are weekly, um, the last show I can't even remember the last show I watched live on TV would probably have been crap. I don't even know. Silicon Valley.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Silicon
I
Valley
actually
was a weekly
watched
episode. It's on
I watched
HBO,
the
and
last
it's
season of that. Yeah.
and so like when you're watching it, you're like, oh shit, his company's not gonna what? Oh my god, we have to wait till next week, and it's like
Yeah.
so there is this aspect of there's that cliffhanger that makes you go, I've got to watch it next week.
Right.
But in the same sense, I probably have like for example for The Walking Dead, I probably went 5 or 6 weeks without watching it if I got busy, and then just caught up in one day or two. So
Right.
the way of if it was like watch it live and never be able to watch it again for another 2 years, I'd probably
Right.
sit down and watch it live.
Yeah.
But if it's watch it live or my DVR, YouTube service, Hulu service, whatever it is going to record it for you, then it doesn't matter to me at that point. And
Yeah.
it's like at that point, I still can fast forward through commercials. Or if there is commercials, I'll get up and get a beer or a drink or
Right.
food or whatever in this particular leak or whatever during
Right.
those commercials. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we've trained our minds to binge. But then the other idea side of it is why not just make a movie if you're going to binge it? I don't care
Right.
if it's a 7-hour movie, just make a movie.
Right.
And so I don't know. I feel like there's shows that you can definitely say that you're missing out on the anticipation of the next episode.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, there's some that are just like some of these documentary series. If you say
Right.
of it, it's just they split it up that way to make it easier to catalog and to
Sure.
watch it. And
Yeah.
so a 10-episode season, binge. Like that's
Yeah.
I would say if you're making a 10-episode season, release them all at the same time. If
Yeah.
you're making a 22-episode season, I could see maybe releasing them an episode at a time to spread it out and making it, or the opposite. If you're making like a 5 or 6 episode season,
Right.
your 10 to 15 episodes, I feel like that's a perfect binge size.
Yeah.
But sub 8,
Yeah.
6-ish, you need to release them weekly.
Right.
And then
like Stranger Things did it. 8 episodes last season and released all on the same day. And Will was going to actually come in and binge the entire 8 episodes at the theater, which would be awesome. You know what I mean? Like there are benefits to it, definitely. But I look at my kids sometimes and I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to, one, have to wait until next week, 2, have to wait until next fall, 3, have to run to the bathroom and grab your drink and your popcorn or whatever else during the commercial break. Like you do not know the struggle.
or your show is on at 8 o'clock on a Monday night and you're like, shit, it's 8:30, and
Right.
not be
I
able
missed it
to
and
see
I will
it.
never see it again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it until it ever comes out on a box set DVD or movie. You're never gonna see this movie again. Even if it's a show I forgot to DVR, I can go online and illegally get it. Like it's possible to get these movies and TV shows now without having to do this. It is one of those things, but growing up and you just things like, oh, no one's ever gonna have to know the idea of using a payphone or like using a pager and having to call someone back. So there is that difference that obviously your kids are, and you have a couple of teenagers and your 6-year-old. I mean, if I have a kid next couple of years, infant, they're gonna have completely different idea of what's going on, and so we were at a time, the first time ever, where Trolls, for an example, the movie, was the first blockbuster film to be released direct to your house.
Yep.
Direct to the home used to mean shitty movie, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you used to thought, oh, it's direct to your home, direct to DVD, it's a shitty movie.
Right.
Low budget, they knew it wasn't going to make any money in the theaters. Here you go. Now it's like, no, this is a multi-million-dollar film that we can't afford to not release. So we're going to put it out online and you can buy it and so on. And it did well. Same thing with comedians. Comedians used to be like HBO or Cinemax or Showtime. Now it's like, no. Hannibal Buress just put one out. It's $2.99 to rent it or whatever on YouTube. And people are doing that. So it's like things change over time. It's depending on how you write the film or the show, I think.
Yeah.
As to how, you don't need to put cliffhangers in shows if it's a bingeable show, if that makes any
Right.
sense. You're
Yeah. Yeah.
just going to watch the next episode anyway.
Yeah.
If you're a weekly show, then you need to put cliffhangers in there because you need to
Right.
tell them you need to come back a week from now and watch this show. It's the
Yeah.
writing that changes things, not
Right.
the
Not the format.
yes.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely shows out there, shows that would never have worked. You know, your Losts. I mean, binging it's fun, but I feel like Lost was that, oh, you need to have a week of anticipation to find out what the hell's going
Yeah.
to happen.
Right.
Game of Thrones, I don't think would have worked as a binge. Like it's great to binge, but I think
Right.
Game of Thrones also built up that anticipation of
Yeah.
the next show, and your
Sure.
Walking Dead's exact same thing. But there are shows like Stranger Things, for an example. I think is a bingeable show. I
Yeah.
mean, Silicon Valley technically probably could have been a bingeable
Yeah.
show.
I binged the first however many seasons of that. That show's awesome, by the way.
But I think there's a mixture of both. And I think now with Disney Plus taking it out and being like, hey, we're just going to do it weekly. Mandalorian
Yep.
comes out every Friday. It
Yep.
doesn't come out Friday at 8:00 at night. You have to watch it at that time. But it comes
Right.
out first thing Friday morning. Watch it whenever you want over the weekend.
Yep.
And then you wait till next week to watch it again.
Are they
That
doing the same
works.
for the Marvel shows?
I think so, yeah.
They're going to be weekly releases, like Scarlet Witch and all that.
I think so, too. At them, they'll be able to get, if you do it weekly and it's a 6 or 8 episode show, you're going to get 2 months of subscriptions.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you do it once, someone's going to subscribe for a month, pay your 15 or whatever it is dollars,
Right.
and then watch all of it and then unsubscribe. And they'll also space out. They're not going to do like these 6 episodes. These 6 shows come out at the same time. It's going to be like when
Right.
that one ends, the next one
Right.
starts, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like you brought up Trolls. Like it's going to be interesting to see which way the industry goes. I am a little bit immune because of my model. Where I'm actually encouraging you to come in and watch old movies on a big screen. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the studio system and with the theater system when you got people at home and maybe not necessarily like they're starting to realize, oh, it's pretty sweet to just kind of like sit here. Oh, Trolls did really, really well on direct to video, and I had heard rumors that they were talking about releasing Black Widow as a stream.
There's
I'm glad
2 Disney movies that are like not like Lion King, whatever. There's 2 Disney
Right.
movies that were like kind of like B Disney movies. So I mean, they are being released directly to Disney Plus.
Yep.
As well. I forget the name of them, but they're.
So I think you definitely. I'm old school, as you could tell from me talking about, you kids with your streaming and get off my lawn and all that. So I think for me, I think there's big problems with the studio system. I think there's big problems with movie theaters in general. But so I think you're losing something that kind of. But that's tradition. That's that feeling of going to the movies. It's something that's been ingrained in us. It's not necessarily natural. So to me, I have like a little bit of trepidation about something that when it becomes we're just sitting here on our 46-inch TV, like you definitely lose something.
And in the aspect of we're all living in this world of a bingeable streaming. Hey, I need to get ice cream. I pause the movie.
Gratification.
But I'm just thinking more along the lines of pausing the movie to go to the bathroom or get some ice cream or
Right.
get some more popcorn.
Right.
We're used to that now, to
Right.
being able to do that. So if I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna go see, the second new Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Fallen Kingdom, whatever. We've seen 1.
Yeah.
We want to see 2. 3's coming out. Let's go to Queen City Cinema Club because I can go there. I can adjust the volume. I can pause the movie. I can go get all that stuff. Whereas, like, if you go to a theater, the number of times where I'm like, no, I don't need anything to drink right now. No,
Right.
because I'm gonna have to pee in the middle of
Right.
this movie, and I gotta. But like, oh no, I'll get a beer to start off. I'll come early and have dinner and some beer, and then go into the theater and watch the movie because I know that 65 minutes in I can pause it and go
Right.
to the bathroom and come back out.
For
Like,
sure.
there's definitely that aspect of we're so used to watching things at home. I mean, I have a 65-inch TV, so it's
Sure.
not small. I have a small room. We can make it more comfortable and stuff like that, so I can get by. But there may be
Right.
times where Taylor and I are both like, we're gonna watch this, that, and the other thing. Well, let's go watch the movie at Queen City because bigger screen, comfy chairs,
Right.
beer on
Yep.
tap, that kind of thing. So I think your model now fits way better than if it did 10, 15 years ago, because
For sure.
10, 15 years ago, it was like, no, I'm going to go, if I'm going to go out for the night,
Right.
I'm going to go out and see a new movie because it's only $6.
Right. Or why would I leave my house to go see something on a I mean, our screens are pretty big compared to what you got at your house. You know, it is more of a theater atmosphere, but you know, the whole, you know, am I going to go see it in the theater or am I going to wait until it comes out on video? And we've kind of like stepped into that middle ground. So, you know,
Plus, I
we'll
mean,
see how it goes, but
movies are also getting to the point where they're costing as much as it is to buy it on DVD when it comes out new.
yep.
So, like, I mean, if I go to, like, when I was living in Massachusetts, when I was living there 5 years ago now almost, it was like $12, $13 to go see a movie at AMC theaters.
Right.
So it's obviously more than that now because of inflation. And so if it's going to cost me $15 or $16 to go see a movie, it's going to cost me $19, usually max, for a high def Blu-ray movie that I can purchase and own forever.
Right.
And then, or I could spend $20 or $40, depending on, you know, $50 to go see it with a bunch of my friends at this, you know, way cheaper to go see it there, or buy it and bring it in with you. So I own the movie, but I can still go see it at a friend at the Queen City. Like, it's one of those things where Taylor and I both go, we really want to have to go see this movie in the theaters. Pay that kind of money. Cause like even now at Bangor, which was like $10, $11 a movie, it's like, it's $20 for us to go see it. I can go buy the movie for $20. Like it's so, you know, Bangor opened their theater back up and we're showing old movies. They were showing movies they had in their archives because there was no movies coming out. So they opened back up at the beginning of July and they're like showing, you know, Back to the Future and all this. I'm like, but they're charging $10 a ticket. Like, I can own them. I guarantee you can buy Back to the Future right now for $10. Guarantee you right now. Sure. So are you going to go see it there, or are you going to, you know, obviously you're not open yet, but once you open, you're going to, you know, go see it at Josh's place, bring your own movie and go see it at your place, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I took the fam to see something or other. Might have just been me and Tiff and the boys, so only 4 of us, and I think we spent $90 between just tickets and a couple sodas and some candy and stuff, you know. So it's, you know, given the movement forward in technology for the home, you know. But like I said, we like to, as far as the business is concerned, we like to kind of hit that middle road where you're getting more than you get at home, but still, like, you know, well, for one, awesome craft beer and
well, yeah, you're the only place in this area that you can go see a movie and drink beer legally.
Right. Yep.
Because I won't lie, and I brought in beer to the movie theater, but like legally grab a draft beer that's fresh, that's on tap. You can grab it or in can and go see it in a theater and have some food now with your place opening back up eventually that you have food. In Massachusetts, there were places like that. You are the only place like that in this area, and it's one of the cool things that you're able to get and experience at Queen City Cinema Club is to watch. And now that's the other thing is we talked about, and we ended up having to cancel it because of this, that, and the other thing. But it was like, oh, the season premiere of The Walking Dead's coming on. I have a subscription to YouTube TV, so I was like, let's rent a theater out. We'll log into and watch it on the theater screen. I'm paying you to rent the screen and the time and be using the room, but I'm not paying you to stream the thing. It's my own service, and I'm watching it myself with some friends.
Yeah.
We talked about doing that. It's like, that's also something you could do. You can't do that in the theater. You can see premieres of shows.
I go and watch Bears games there on Sundays.
Watch them lose?
It's awesome.
What?
Oh, I go there and watch Bears games on Sundays, you know?
You watch them lose?
I go there and watch Bears games on Sundays. Hey, I'll tell you what, Trubisky's going to surprise some people this year.
So we're gonna finish up here, but I want to say, so what do you expect? Are you expecting them to be able to play the actual football season come fall?
No, not really. CAA, Colonial Athletic Association, which Maine Black Bears football plays in, they just canceled the conference schedule.
Postponed.
My son Hunter is a big football star at Herman High. He has not heard anything from them, but California just canceled their high school season.
Which nothing against your son and all those things. It's the right decision. I hate
it. Probably is, yeah.
It probably for right now, like even postponing it. There's no reason why they can't play the football season comes like the
so
spring,
that's what that's what they're talking about doing is switching fall and spring sports. I feel horrible about it, and I wish that it was some other way. But right now, I just don't think that there's really any way to do it safely. And I mean, with the NFL, they start like the NBA bubble.
Yep.
The minute people start going into the bubble, there are stories coming out about people have coronavirus in the bubble. I'm like, you know.
So it's one of those things we're trying to take. I mean, I'm a big NBA fan, so we're waiting now. What's today's date? Today's date we're recording this on the 20th. So we're
Yeah.
now 9 days away, 9 days away from the NBA supposed to be kicking off in,
Yep.
or kicking back off, I should say, in Orlando. Asa, we're both still like, I don't know, maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. We don't know. But like,
For sure.
something that happens so far away, and it's something that like you only have 16 games, so you can't really do like an abbreviated schedule. You can't. I mean, when you're paying someone millions, like the idea that you only have 16 games, so then you're paying people millions of dollars, and you can't have that many people in the stands or anybody in the stands. It just seems like a sport that would be very difficult to do financially.
Absolutely.
Unless the
And
NFL is like, screw it, we're just going to lose a bunch of money this year, and next year we'll come back and make more money, whatever it is.
Yep.
But I feel like there's too much of a business for them to be like, screw it, we're going to lose a bunch of money kind of thing.
Yeah. And you think about the work that goes into it for the players and the coaches and everything. Like, they have to be there all day, every single day for 6 months.
Yep.
Like there's no home isolation, so, I hope it happens. I love sports. I've missed the NBA, and but I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic, so
we'll see. So
yeah.
I mean, so I would love to, when I was talking about doing this podcast in the past, which was like, we'll talk about pop culture and what movies are coming out and what things are coming. There's no movies coming out right now because there's no plan for that anytime soon. We'll see how the fall comes. But with Josh potentially, hopefully joining us every couple of weeks now on this podcast, we'll hopefully be able to bring in the idea of we'll touch the pop culture side. Plus, Brian is a sports fan as well. Brian likes basketball a lot, watches the Patriots, stuff like that. So we'll bring in that aspect of the things. But it was so funny because I'm like, now I have the time, or did have the time. Now I'm making time to do this podcast. And then there's nothing pop culture or it is. So comic books are just starting to come back. I'm going to have Paul Eaton on hopefully in a couple of weeks to talk from Galactic Comics, to talk about what comic books are coming out and stuff like that. It's just, so there is some things that I love and passionate about that are just now starting to come back. Hopefully Brian and I will get to chat a little bit about the NBA season coming up here pretty soon too, because he's a big Celtics fan. And so, but it is what it is. And I think this is the opportunity to spend time with family, to binge those shows that you missed or movies that you whatever. I think I'll have Josh back on. We kind of did this last minute, and with Josh potentially not be able to, in my mind, not be able to make this podcast, we'll try to get Josh to do like, let's do our top films that maybe not just top film, but top films that maybe no one else has ever heard of or whatever, like that, like top unique films or films that are kind of like off the beaten path or whatever it is, and see what we can come up with and do stuff like that. Cause those are some things that maybe we can say, this is the list of this. You can watch it on Netflix or Hulu, or it's free on YouTube, or, it's not, but you can come watch it at Queen City Cinema Club. We're same page right there. But I've definitely gone longer than I thought I was going to go with you, but we've had some fun. So definitely visit queencitycinemaclub.com and follow them on Instagram and on Facebook, because Josh has some really cool things coming out with some food and beer items, obviously, when he opens back up. So keep an eye out for that, because it's one of the most fun places. And every time I talk to someone about Queen, that place, I played N64 there, or whatever it is. So Josh definitely has a cool spot in downtown Bangor. When he opens back up, we wish him the best. I really appreciate you coming on with me, man. I really appreciate talking like movie nerdism and other things like that too. So
for sure, I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So hopefully Josh will be back in a couple of weeks when Brian's back from vacation. And I think next week we're going to touch base, because he's already flaked on me once this season, is Spencer Wood from Tip Whip at Maine, or in college campuses, college driven by college for college students, kind of like Uber thing. Will hopefully join us next week. But in a couple of weeks, maybe Josh can come back and chat some more. So thanks a lot for joining me, man.
Thank you.
Give me a best to your wife and your family, okay?
Right back at you.
Thanks, man.